In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a beautiful 43 square meter wooden deck from A to Z, and to make it as eco-friendly as possible and the easiest to install. Instead of concrete, we're going to use foundation screws. Hi, I'm Julian Malara and this is my house, Container. I'm 26 years old, have no do-it-yourself skills, but I've taken on the crazy challenge of building an eco-friendly and affordable house. I am also trying to develop my resilience and live in harmony with nature. I'm filming and sharing this on my channel, so subscribe to follow the adventure. Hello everyone, if you've been following my shipping container house construction, you know I don't like concrete. It pollutes, it destroys the soil, it's annoying to do. I chose to use technoposts or foundation screws instead of concrete for my house's foundations. These are screws that go 2 meters into the ground and can support several tons. For my terrace, I wanted to stay in the same logic of ecological and easy to implement foundation. But using technopiles, that would be a bit oversized. So I rather contacted the company Weasyfix, which makes smaller foundation screws, specially designed for terraces, carports or solar panels, for example. The advantage of these screws above all is that I will be able to install them myself. No need to call in a professional. I'm going to show you all this in the video, and above all, I'm going to show you step by step how I built this 43 square meter wooden deck. The goal really is that this video is the only one you need to watch to build your wooden deck easily in an ecological way and in a very pretty way. Let's go! Before starting the work, we need to know what our deck will look like, what size it will be, in which direction. We want our boards, all of that. So we're going to do what's called a layout, which means we're going to draw our deck from the top, so the deck boards, and looking underneath, what's going to be positioned. So the rafters, the beams, and finally the foundations. We always start from the top and work our way down. And this will allow us to know exactly where to position our foundation screws, how many we need, etc. So we will need 16 foundation screws, 8 beams, 20 rafters and 68 decking boards to be able to make the 43 square meters. For my layout, we therefore started with my decking boards, which are 4.2 meters and will be placed perpendicular to the house. To support these boards, we will need to place 65 by 85 rafters every 66 centimeters. To support these rafters, we will need to place 8 beams of 70 by 220 every 1 meter 40 with an overhang of 25 centimeters on each side. In the end, I'll need 16 foundation screws for under these beams. Position 60 centimeters from the edge to have a maximum load-bearing capacity of 3 meters. The sections of wood that I used, it's what Weasyfix advised me, and it's also what Siri advised me. It's also especially what Siri had in stock, because I didn't go through King Merlin or a big do-it-yourself chain. I preferred to go to Siri because it was better quality for less money. However, they have stocks that vary enormously, so I had to make do with what they had in stock. You too, it will certainly vary. You won't find exactly what I have, but it's okay. There are equivalents. Now that we have our structure, that we know how many screws we need, it's time to place the order and to screw our foundation screws. As I was telling you, I prefer to use foundation screws rather than concrete piles because it was more ecological. It doesn't destroy the ground, we can unscrew them and the ground remains in its natural state. Above all, it's simple and quick to install. Services have a 50-year lifespan. So knowing that the wooden deck has a lifespan of 15 to 20 years, I will be able to build several decks. On its flaws, so it's very good in terms of lifespan and flaws. They come in different sizes, from 55 centimeters up to 1 meter 75. Here it's a screw of 1 meter 25, for example, to know which screw I will have to use. How does the test work? Well, it's very simple. We're going to drive this rod into the ground, and in fact, this rod, you see, it's marked every 20 centimeters. We're going to come and see how long it takes. It sinks between each mark if it takes 3 to 5 seconds to sink between 2 marks. That means we've reached the minimum depth for the screw to support, 750 kilograms. For the test, I'm going to set the hammer drill to hammer mode intensity 2. I'm going to put my rod in it. Tack, it's good. I'm going to be able to take all of this, put it in the lost point, and there, I'm ready to drive it into the ground. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my smartphone to film myself. This will then allow me to review the footage and therefore precisely measure how much time I took to move between each mark. Now, I can watch the video I took with my smartphone to analyze how much time it took me to pass. Between each marker, we see that between the second and third marker, I went from 18 seconds to 25 seconds, so it took me 7 seconds. So, in itself, let's say that the third marker, that could be enough. That means 60 centimeters, but for more safety, let's look between 25 and 34. There, it took us 9 seconds to pass between the third and fourth marker. So 80 centimeters of screw, we are really very, very good. We can allow for some error margins. Currently the ground is hard due to dryness, but rain will soften my soil. An 80 centimeter screw will do the job, considering the screws can protrude from the ground by 10 to 20 centimeters. So I decided to go with 1 meter screws for my deck before coming to screw the foundation screws. I'm going to mow the grass as short as possible first, and I'm going to fix a geotextile with staples over the entire surface of my future deck. Even if there isn't much light under the blades, it will prevent plants from growing and transmitting moisture to the wood, which would reduce its lifespan. Then I mark the location of the screws by drawing markers on the geotextile, and I cut out small crosses to let the screws pass through. Let's finally move on to the installation of the foundation screws, and the first step will be to make a pilot hole. With a crowbar and our mallet, we drive the crowbar 40 to 60 cm deep. This will then allow us to guide our drill when we drill our real hole that will accommodate the screw. Then we're going to make a pre-drilled hole so that the screw goes in more easily. Here, we're going to reuse the hammer drill, a 35 diameter drill bit. And I'm going to have to make a hole a little less deep than my screw. So here, I know that my screw is going to stick out 10 to 15 centimeters. It's going to be 1 meter, so I'm going to pre-drill 70 to 80 centimeters. I set myself up well in intensity here. 5 this time in hammer and screwdriver cap, a hammer drill. We won't hesitate to make repeated efforts to bring the earth out of the hole. It's heavy. So, the first step was the pilot hole with the crowbar. Then, the second step was our drilling with the adapted drill bit. And the third step is that we're going to come and lubricate this hole with water so that the screw goes in more easily, and above all, so that the earth clumps better around the screw to secure it better. I'm first going to place the screw by hand into the hole. I screw it in so that it holds properly, and I'm going to put on the Weasyfix screw head. I'm going to screw it on top with my impact driver. This will allow me to screw it into the ground. Then I will be able to use a huge impact wrench, the same as we get where we buy the screws. And there is a bubble level on the Wheezy head to drive the screw straight into the ground. Now I'm going to show you how to make sure all the screws are screwed in at the same height so that your deck is level. To start, we'll position the first screw at the correct height. So here, for example, let's say it's this one. I calculated the height of the screw so that the final deck comes flush with my patio door. This screw will be my reference screw. I'm going to put my impact wrench on it. On my impact wrench, you hear the beep beep. I've put a laser level receiver, and opposite I'm going to place my laser level so that the receiver beeps. When you hear this sound that beeps very quickly or is continuous, it means that my laser level is right in front of my receiver. And so when I'm going to screw in the next screw, when my nut runner reaches the right height, it will beep. And I will know that my screw in front is exactly at the same level as that screw there. And there you go, it's good. I installed the 16 foundation screws for my deck with my father's help. It took us a little over 2 hours. And now I will be able to screw the Weasyfix Wood Pro heads onto each of the screws. This is what will hold the joists, and we will discuss it right away in the structure part. Installing the Wood Pro is very simple. I'll just screw it in. There needs to be at least 1.5 to 2 centimeters going into the screw for it to be well reinforced. So we screw this in calmly. This Wood Pro connector, it will allow us to correct if our screw is too low. We will be able to raise the connector more or less. To have a well-leveled beam, we will also be able to move this plate from left to right. It will allow us to recenter our beam. Similarly, if the screw driven into the ground is not level. In fact, we will be able to come and correct our beam by a few degrees so that it is straight right in front. That's really why I chose these connectors. They allow to make up for past mistakes. For the first part of the structure, we are going to use a beam that is 70 by 220 and which is pressure treated. The entire structure, the entire deck, everything is pressure treated. To be able to withstand the weather outdoors, that's what's needed for a deck. And why did I choose such a large section of wood? It's because I needed something that could support my weight. With 3 meters between my 2 foundation screws, I could have put a third foundation screw in the middle and therefore used a smaller section of wood. But you'll see it in the price section. Earlier, the screws are still quite expensive, or at least more expensive than the wood. So it's more worth it, economically speaking, to put larger sections of wood and fewer screws. I bought all the wooden structure of my deck from Syria, next to my house. Thanks to Syria Vado, the issue with Syria is that you can't really pick the sections they offer. For me, they only had 5-meter long planks, while I needed 4.20 meters. So I had to cut. And when you cut, you have to treat the cuts with autoclave treatment so that the plank remains perfectly waterproof and treated. Let's say. So I will come and put 2 coats, a first one now and a second one in a few hours when it has dried. Before making my height, level, etc. adjustments, with the Wood Pro, I'm going to come and screw the beam with A2 stainless steel screws that are designed to be outdoors. Now I can adjust the height of my Wood Pro so that the left beam is exactly at the same level as my right beam. So I put my mason's rule, I put my bubble level, I see that, okay, I need to raise this beam a little bit. My life, it's a little bit too low and no problem. I take a power strip and there, hop, I give a few hits, it brings up my connector. Wood Pro, I check my bubble level. It's perfect now that I've adjusted the height of my beam with my Wood Pro, and I know it's exactly at the same level as the one next to it. Well, I can also do the distance, the center-to-center spacing between my 2 beams on my layout. I know that normally I have 1 meter 40, so I'm going to come and check that, and there I'm at 1 meter 40 and not a problem. I can bring the beam a little towards me, I can shift it 1 to 2 centimeters, and there, perfect, I'm at 1 meter 40. I have my good center distance. I was able to catch up the small mistakes, the small centimeters of center distance height that I did not do well. I tried my best to put in the screws, but mistakes happen. Luckily, I was able to fix everything. Second part of the structure, the rafters in 65 by 85 always autoclave. This section was chosen because it needed to support a center-to-center distance of 4 feet 7 inches. So I needed 65, 85, and I'm going to place one every 60 centimeters to then be able to accommodate my deck boards. The DTU provides for this once again. I will be able to screw these rafters with Spax Inoxide 2 screws of 160 centimeters. And then it's on. And there you have it. After 4 to 5 hours of work by 2 people, the structure is finally ready to accommodate the deck boards. And that's what we're going to see right away. My deck boards are 27 millimeters thick by 145 millimeters wide. I found it more aesthetic to put the boards directly, spanning the entire 13 feet 7 inches width of the deck. At Leroy Merlin, the public do-it-yourself stores, you often need to connect to 40-meter boards. The quality of these boards is terrible, and for just a little bit more expensive in Syria, you have 4.20-meter boards of very high quality. So for me, the choice was quick. I chose that one. Despite the fact that all my structure and my deck boards are autoclave treated, it means that it's made for the outdoors, it withstands the weather. I'm still going to add a strip of PDM on my rafters under my deck boards to protect my structure even more. This is what is recommended to do in the DTU, the technical document that professionals follow when they make decks. In summary, while not mandatory, it's recommended by professionals, and I personally want to do it properly. So let's get started. I'm going to avoid unrolling the PDM tape all the way, because then with the heat, it might get sticky when I put the rest of the blades on. So I'm going to unroll them little by little at the same time as I put my deck boards on. We're going to place our first blade, and that's where we need to be most careful. I'm going to use a square to start off straight at 90 degrees. And then I'm going to introduce a little tool that will allow me to always put my screws at the same distance on the blade. So, thanks to this drilling guide. Then I have a special little drill bit with a cutter at the end that allows me to make a chamfer so that my screw goes in without drilling, without cracking the blade. And then I have a third little bit with a stop at the end that will allow me to screw in my screws. Ensure they stop at the deck's edge, avoiding small holes at the screw level from going too far. There you go, these 3 tools, it's Wallcraft that makes them. It's really not essential, but it gives a more aesthetic finish. It cracks the blades less, so maybe it lasts a little longer over time. Anyway, that's how professionals do it. If you want to have straight screws and not get criticized in YouTube video comments, I'm going to show you how to do all of this. I've placed my guide and I'm making a small pre-drill in each of the locations. Okay, I can remove it then. I drill all the way through. You can see that it has made a small chamfer so that my screw head fits perfectly without cracking the wood, and then I come to screw my screw with the special bit and it will stop precisely flush. There you can see right flush. I put the second one. There you go. Next, I place my second blade with small spacers of varying sizes. And I I'm going to come and space all my blades of 7 millimeters. That's what Siri advised me, so that the wood can expand without splitting the blades each time. So now I'm putting my little 7 millimeter spacers everywhere. I'm wedging my board against it well. I've installed my second blade with spacers, creating a consistent 0.276 inches spacing between blades. I'm going to put my guide on. So here, this part here, is the screw that I put in before. And so I'm sure that I will always be well aligned and that I will always have the same spacing, and I pre-drill. And there you have it. The terrace is finally done. It took a day with 3 to 4 people to complete it all. It still takes time to put each blade in place to make sure the screws are properly screwed in a clean manner. The 43 square meter terrace project was completed slowly without major issues. Next, I'll provide the cost breakdown for this terrace. These screws, they can be bought at many partner stores where 1 meter screws cost 74 euros. The Wood Pro connectors cost 43 euros, which makes it 117 euros per screw. So, I could have chosen cheaper connectors than the Wood Pro. There was the Wood Basic, there were plenty of other models, but I really chose the Wood Pro because it was the one that saved me the most time during installation and allowed me to best correct all the little mistakes I had made before. In height, in width. As shown in the video, 16 screws cost me a total of 1,872 euros. And if we add the allocation for the equipment to screw the screws, we can round it up to 2,000 euros. Then, for the wood, the prices vary enormously depending on the quality you're going to choose, the size, so the sections, and the urgency of your request. 8 beams cost me 700 euros and 20 rafters cost me 450. If we add the 200 euros for the PDM bench and the 50 euros for screws, we get to 1,400 euros for the wooden structure. And finally, the decking boards. I didn't want to take the cheapest boards from Leroy Merlin, Casto, etc. The items were low quality and not cost effective for Leroy Merlin Casto in the long run. The cost is about 20 euros per square meter. Unfortunately, he had no choice but to do the same as in Syria. So the best of the best qualities of the terrace sole. And there we were at 28 euros per square meter, but at least I was delivered quickly and I know it will last over time. In total, for 43 square meters of terrace, it cost me 1,200 euros for the core, and to screw them in, I needed a little less than 1,200 screws, which is 200 euros, which gives us a total of 4,800 euros. I could have surely cut the cost much lower than that by already choosing lower quality wood, by not putting in the PDM benches. But well, those would have been choices that wouldn't have been very profitable, let's say, in the long term. I could have also used concrete blocks instead of foundation screws, or cheaper connectors on my foundation screws. That might have been able to reduce the cost a little bit, but there you have it. I wanted a deck that lasts over time. Consider their beauty, eco-friendliness, and ease of installation. So, I absolutely do not regret my choices, but there you have it. If you are really tight on budget, there is always a way to pull a little more towards the bottom. Afterwards, it remains to be seen if it's profitable in the long term. In conclusion, it took me about 3 days to make this magnificent wooden deck. Each time I was accompanied by 1 or 2 people, because it's complicated to do all this by yourself. But there you have it, it was quite simple to do, and now I must not forget next year to treat the wood with a saturator so that it doesn't turn grey, that it keeps its beautiful color, and above all, that it lasts over time. When you build a wooden deck, it's really not a point to neglect. You have to maintain your deck, you have to nourish it. In fact, you need to treat the wood with a saturator every 3 to 5 years, which will cost around 150 to 200 euros each time. To do the 43 square meters, it should take half a day, so it's not a lot of work. It's not very expensive. But beyond preventing the wood from graying, it also allows it to last over time. And anyway, I have to do it for the siding of my house as well. So I'm going to buy big pots. It will take me a day or 2. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. And see you soon for more tutorials on this container house, more solar panel tutorials, more very cool videos. Subscribe. All right, bye.